the state. If you happen to look at last
State Master Naturalist Program.
exactly. If you happen to look at last month's newsletter, I wrote about it. I can say some more again, but I'd like to know if you all have questions.
Does it help with scholarships for new students?
That does not affect us giving scholarships. The question was, what about scholarships for new students? That does not affect this chapter giving scholarships for new trainees. That's been covered.
Does the endowment have a way for, if we want to include them in our legacy planning?
The question is, does the endowment have a way to include them in your legacy planning? And the answer is yes. It's through Texas A&M Foundation. The representative is Brandy Kynes. I have met her, and she had hoped to be able to join us. Mary Beth is going to see if she's on Zoom. Yes, and they'll take, if you would rather not give cash, they'll take stock and bonds and all that stuff. Like many other endowments, the principal is never touched. If we donate this $2,500, that $2,500 is not spent. The interest on that money is spent. They're trying to get several million. And again, they started in 2015 or 2016. You found her? Did you find her? Okay, she wasn't able to join us. And then COVID happened, but they have had fundraisers. A couple years, well, in 2018, the Alamo area chapter had a contest, and I guess we're just all too busy. They wanted to have let's see which chapter can make the biggest donation, and but every month, when the presidents sit at a Zoom meeting or a WebEx meeting with our state officers, when they mention the license plates and they mention the endowment. So it's still an active fund to donate to. Yes, sir.
Is this a one-time donation, or are they going to expect this every year?
As far as I'm concerned, it's a one-time donation. The question was, are they going to expect it every year? No, we don't click that box that says one-time donation. 25 years from now, those of you who are still here, you might want to give $5,000. I don't know. For the 50th anniversary.
What are you still looking at me for?
Well, because you're nearly the youngest person in the room. If Zane is not here today, so.
Not when I'm drinking.
Mary Beth.
Is the purpose of the foundation to provide funding because the state is strapped and doesn't give them enough funding?
Would you repeat that question so it doesn't go out with my lips?
I gathered that the purpose of the foundation is to provide supplemental funds because Texas AgriLife and Parks and Wildlife is on a tight budget and cannot provide all that the Master Naturalist State Program would like to have.
That is correct. This would be for additional programs, additional staff. And they were able to finally hire a third person to run 49 chapters. And they felt like they were, on vacation because they have a third person now, which may have come from that 60 million or something that the voters approved last fall. But the budget for the Texas Master Naturalist is mostly through a specific fund. It's federal funds that come back to the state. It's not the general Parks and Wildlife Fund. Any other questions?
I approve the motion.
I think since it's a board motion, we don't have to have someone move in second. Is that correct, Bill?
We need a motion, no second is required.
All right. Would anyone like to move that the chapter make a one-time donation for $2,500 to the Texas Master Naturalist Endowment?
So moved.
Bill Collins moved. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm sure they will too. And Brandy, when we call her tomorrow or email her, she's gonna be thrilled. All right. So Mary Beth, would you please?
Gladly. Okay, good to see everybody here today. We have our very own Zach Chapman, who's going to talk to us about his adventures through photography. Zach and I were in the 2016 class together, as also was Rob Ramos. Is it Ramos? Ramos, who actually lives in the hill country in some beautiful land. There's a few of us from 2016 still hanging around. And Zach is probably the most enthusiastic and intelligent as far as knowing his species of other people in this chapter. His knowledge is vast. In 2022 and 2023, he averaged about 200 volunteer hours a year. And he's volunteered at the Nature Center, but a lot of his volunteer work is in Arlington. River Legacy, working with outreach.
Kids camps, events. When they call me, they're like, we need you. I'm like, I'm there.
Events, kids camps, highly admirable. He's also a very active iNaturalist and BioBlitzer and Mother.
A little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. He attends NPAT. And so his professor from UTA, Cheryl Mitchell, is here. Raise your hand. And what do you teach? Museum studies and art history. And his classmate, Libby, is here with her parents, Amy and John. Glad to have you. Do we have any other guests? Okay. All right, Zach, we're ready for you. Thank you.
Captain on the bridge. Well, hi, y'all. I'm Zachary Chapman, and I'm here to talk about what it's like being a master naturalist, but also a naturalist in the student's viewfinder. So, since 2015, I've been avid birder, and it evolved into, well, a little bit of everything. In my youth, I was, avid in dinosaurs and paleontology, and it's all about the layers. You have to look at every single layer in this world to fully understand the grandeur and the wonder of it all. People walk by every day, just passing by. I'm like, slow down. Red alert shows up. I think the Klingons are attacking. So going by, you have to slow down. Take it step by step. Look at the little things and look up to the big things. So, whoops.
Just hit the right button.
Oh, got it. There we go. So a little bit about me, a little bit about my background. I graduated from James Martin High School in 2012. I was part of the Future Farmers America program, where I raised rabbits and got into entomology, which I thought I would never get into because, believe it or not, I didn't like bugs. And the majority of them. I mean, I still like beetles, butterflies, but most of if it was a wasp near me, I'd be like Roadrunner, meet me, like, get me away from that sucker. So from 2012 to about 2020, I was at TCC. Didn't quite know what I wanted to do in terms of science, but something happened in 2014. I was born with a large kidney, and I started having massive infections, and pretty soon it came down to, you're going to have to have surgery. You're going to have to get that scarring tissue out of your system. So I was like, well, all right. 6 hours on the table took a lot out of me. And so my grandmother bought me the Nikon Coolpix 830, which you can see on the table there. And I ran wild with it. My aunt, who's in the audience, she taught at Everman, and I spent a lot of my time walking around looking for birds. And it was in 2015 actually when I found this little group, and I guess like a leech, I stuck. So graduated from TCC in 2022 with photography classes at just budding. You can also see some of that later. And now I'm at UTA with these lovely folks here. So yeah, it's amazing where life can take you. So what wildlife photography means to me, well, it's not as easy as one would think. It means the expressing of love for wildlife, not just images, but through journalism, nature posts. Take time, as my English professor at Martin said, stop, drop, and write. If you see something, you write it down because you're not going to remember it. And that kind of stuck. So it is a way to learn about nature in ways that may or may not be cut and dry, but it's a good way to explore, and photography is as vast as nature itself because you're behind the viewfinder. It is your eye that leads you to everything you see. So it's a journey of its own. So nature is a way to relax and hit the books. I mean, I do a lot of research. I read a lot of books, and so my classmates be like, I don't read. I'm like, you don't read those photography books? It's a diverse media. I, naturalist, need I say more? Thank you very much. It's just a way. It's also a way to express concern of human impacts and a more refined means of doing it. It's a way to teach and gain knowledge. So you don't keep it to yourself. You express your love for photography, and you educate others through it. In a way, you connect with the planet in a very unique perspective. Everyone has their own perspectives, as we learned through immersive. We went to Meow Wolf, and no one has the same experience twice. So each person is going to be like, "Oh, that's pretty cool," or "Meh." And it's also a way to understand how the land moves and how we, as humans, can either protect it or destroy it. So let's do an experiment. So I grew up in the 90s, and that was before all this urban expansion started. So when we would go out to places, it was still pretty wild. And so whenever you arrive at your destination, look around you. Look around at the place you have chosen to explore. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes and listen. What do you hear? Do you hear the wind? Do you hear the birds? What do you smell? Do you smell the aroma of loblolly pines or a sea breeze, perhaps? What do you feel? Do you hear your heart beating? Do you feel the wind? Sorry.
We all are with you, Zach, on these. We feel the same way.
Yeah.
So open your eyes and begin to read the land around you. This is what it would feel like if you were in a pristine world.
Right.
But now the reality, nature photography has its ups and downs. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Sir Isaac Newton. Sometimes a nature photography needs to shed light on what's going on. It's not about chasing butterflies and dragonflies. In our current state, it is hard to ignore the changes. It is easy to see them, but hard to speak up. So, you're the one. When you're up here, take your drink breaks. Oh. So climatic impacts from drought, from rains to snow events, and Texas has some pretty wild weather, I'll tell you that. Nothing has stayed the same, especially in the last few years. Yep. Yeah. So here we have the Fort Worth Trinity Trail, a little bit of the, I'm not sure which branch this is. This is during a really bad dry spell. So you can see how barely any water is covering it up. But there is actually a really cool photographic quality to it. you see the layers, you see like how everything meanders into a vanishing point. So I learned through photography that you have to look at the artistic values to get the right type of photograph. And sometimes you're like, it looks pretty. Whoops. It looks pretty, but there's just a lot going on here. And this is during the same year, I think this was taken. This is the Village Creek drying beds. And I was walking down the levee, and I saw this and I'm like, this is not good. And last year I went, there was barely any water. And I'm like, this is bad. And also we had flooding. This is at White Rock Lake of all places. You can feel like down here where I took that, you could feel it was like the ocean. You could feel yourself moving as the water was rushing by. And I was like, this is weird. And it was up to the trash cans, which if you got a lot of pollution and stuff, that's going to get on your waterways and whatnot. I know I'm preaching the choir here. And then we have the weird snow events. So we've had some pretty, I mean, we used to get ice and sleet as far back as I can remember, but now it's this powder. So it's kind of inconsistent there. I mean, I don't know what's up with that. I'm a naturalist, not a meteorologist. So in the last few years at UTA, I have been exploring nature degradation and urban expansion. So Brian Florentine, who's my professor for color photography and advanced, he had me, it was like up to me to choose a topic. So I chose the built environment. Do not Google that. You will get architecture. This is not what you want for built environment. So this is what you get with built environment. Innocent looking enough, except you have housing developments that look like they're just coming out of the ground, which again, you can get some really fun photo effects with that. Trees being corralled by concrete, which what's that gonna do? You can't, I mean, trees need to be free and spread so birds can have a place to nest. So people can get out of the rain. I mean, you have to have a good, cross a little land bridge for all things, but we're just slabbing it up. I mean, I was thinking one night, the things that keep you up at night, like if we were Lego people and we're just putting slabs of like road down, it's like, what's that doing for us? It's like, they say that everything is awesome in the Lego movie, but it's like, yeah. I'll let you play. I'll let that play in your heads. And then we have, all this construction equipment, and it's just gumming up the works. So then this is also some more of my photography I took in the last section of my color photography studies. So we have some new apartment complexes. Some of this, the one down there on the corner on the bottom is actually by my house. It's a little bit the I-20 area that's getting built up. It's right in my backyard almost, and yeah, it's noisy, and it's like, and there's lights everywhere, and it's like, that's terrible. I mean, you have so much going on there, and it's like, how does anything sleep? How do the birds and the mammals sleep with all that racket going on? I mean, slightest sound, my dog is up running to me and like, what's going on? Oh, you're in the refrigerator? It's like, and so then here's some more. So more than an art project. However, it does start the conversation. It's like, can we make aware of the vast changes that are happening? And it's happening at a fast pace. I mean, when I was younger, we still had some cornfields. We had some areas where we're still, and like overnight, like this last few decades, it's just been a wash of people coming in. It's like, and we're putting strain on our resources. So how do you, I mean, it's more like we got more questions we have answers to. We can't rifle through all of it. And so going back to 2023, I had the opportunity to intern with the Lights Out Fort Worth program, and I was up here with Madison, Dover, and Mariah, and we were talking about what we found from that project. It was a survey mission. We were looking for birds that had hit windows. I took it upon myself to do more of a photography program or a project and present to the master, to you wonderful folks.
You move.
So here are some of the photographs I took, and I was mainly concerned with the not just the environment around, but you have these trees, and then you have this big city, but then you have these subdivisions. So where the flyways would be subdivided by sky bridges, glass windows, and it's a mess. It's a total mess. And birds, I was talking to one of our coordinators, and I was asking, well, do birds at a certain age, if they haven't made the journey before, are they more susceptible to window collisions? And he said that some of the statistics say it is plausible. And that was the question I had into my TCC days. That's when I first started documenting bird deaths, which you will see in a second. And so lights at night causing lots of disruption. Even me, I couldn't stand it looking at all this light pollution coming through, because I was trying to look for stuff and cast shadows. It was all confusing. Well, birds think this is moon and stars and planets. That's how they navigate. They navigate through the star patterns, and of course magnetic channels. But also with all this electronic stuff, does that throw them off too? I mean, sometimes like I was watching a documentary on insects, and ants like to get into computers and stuff. So what's up with that? And then some more lights. But this one here from this one building, the big photograph, how the sky melds with the glass. So our buildings are kind of camouflaged as well. So whenever they're flying by, they hit the windows and they can't differentiate. Even the clouds will sometimes appear and it looks like, oh, that's just a little bit of sky there. And mostly the birds that we have, the songbirds come in through at nighttime to avoid predators. So here's so this was part of my video that I made. I'm sure many of you have seen it on YouTube. These were all taken at TCC. And warblers, among other birds, are highly susceptible to climatic changes as well as environment. And we are destroying a lot of their environment. And they come here to nest, to feed, and then they go back up, I think, north, I think. Sorry, I'm trying to I've been running around like crazy this week. But yeah, sparrows and other birds, just can't navigate. And I mean, we had this one building that had them like funneled through like a corral, and they were hitting windows left and right. I mean, I was out there one time doing just walking around looking for stuff, and there was like a whole influx of Lincoln sparrows just one by one. I'm like, I don't like this. And I was trying to shoo away a cat because it was trying to get the birds. And obstacles are real. And in fact, obstacles and entanglements, how can we prevent these from getting our animals? So that was from my game cam. So yeah, we have quite a few strays in our yard. And they bug Polaris. She will keep me up at night and like, what are you barking at? There'll be nothing, or there'll be something. And it's often a little orange tabby cat that's right in the cul-de-sac bathing itself. I'm like, go. So, and then this one here, well, these are like some of my best shots for talking about obstacles. So downtown Everman, I would go down whenever my aunt taught out there, and I had heard rumor that there was monk parakeets that nested there. And I was talking to a few friends that said they're not native per se, but they are taking up an ecological niche, however you want to say it. I'm either way. But as I was looking at this for the first time, I'm like, those are transformer boxes they're building. So if something happened, they catch fire. You can have smoke almost smoked chicken. I mean, plain and simple. I mean, they're poultry, or not, they're not poultry, but it's like, it's the same difference. And then you have dam systems. This one was on my vacation in Missouri. And I always think about that. When I see this, I think of that song, like this little fish swim over the dam. How can you swim over that thing? It's concrete. You can't swim. Oh, I mean, I was trying to do the mathematics in my head and it was like dividing by 0. And then we have nets, like abandoned spires. This was actually downtown Arlington at a abandoned mini golf course. And yeah, this is dilapidated. I'm like, birds get entangled. We put out spider webs for Halloween and in our bushes, and bats and other things get entangled. And so like, why don't we leave this stuff up? I mean, yeah. And then some more lights, and these are like out in the daytime. But the thing I'm most concerned about here is not just the lights, but also the wires. It's like you're assimilating a tree. So like, you know, the board, you know, organic and wires, it's like that could also catch fire and cause other problems. Yeah, I know the sci-fi habit dies kind of hard. So research and solutions, well, we're part of that solution. We can either be part of the problem or the solution. So big questions. How can we measure the drastic changes? How is wildlife being affected by these changes? Are there species seen historically that we haven't seen in near centuries? I volunteer for a group called Bee City Arlington, and we have people like, you know, really into the bee science, and we're like, we need to find these historical species I haven't seen in 100 years or more. And you know, Texas, you know, has a lot of good native bees. It's all about the honeybees. It's like, what's with that? And we have like 5,000 species of bees almost, and it's like, why are we not looking for some of these that haven't been found yet? I mean, I think the native bees are pretty cool. But how can we look at the historical data and fill in those gaps? And museum studies comes in handy with that. How can we pitch? How can we pitch to do our part? And, you know, how can we pitch in to get others involved? Where are the most problematic areas? And how can we fix them? What are the most vulnerable species in our areas? This is like with all of our, you know, big trucks and everything and tearing up everything, we have a lot of native plants that are endangered. Like I was looking at a Facebook post that said like half of our plants are actually vulnerable at this point. And we have very little prairie left, Blackland Prairie, about 1% left. So we have to like really preserve that. And I was talking with a classmate of mine down in the basement of the library, and we were talking about how the prairie is so messed up that it's not prairie no more half the time. I mean, in some areas, it's we have a lot of introduced species. We have a lot that, you know, just escape out of people's yards. And so it's a mishmash. It's not lush with all the native foliage. And so that brings up, how will these changes affect the macro environments? So we have the big environment, but each place that you go has a smaller, more isolated, more confined environment. So how would those changes go? Because sometimes those areas are more susceptible to change than others. And of course, my one main passion, how can citizen science help with that? So there are a lot of good ways to do that. So citizen science can help tremendously. We can use it, we can use data, pitch in, and, you know, get a bunch of, you know, this observations out and say, hey, you know, maybe you should look at this and see what data is, so you can select places that may not be good for development, or you know, I mean, like which ones would be better for in terms of developing, and which ones aren't. So you're not, so you can put stuff there, but, you know, be more selective, like selective cutting and not clear cut, which is what happened now. It's like it's clear cut of forest or a prairie. It's not clear cut of forests. So it's a different type of clear cut. Art projects, community projects can help raise awareness, and write journal posts. You know, I do nightly, a lot of posting on Facebook, and photographs and have like long, I don't sleep. I don't sleep at all. I mean, I'm a college student. Yeah, post to social media, start the bigger conversations. Don't just say, oh, this is a pretty picture. No, I like to think of it as you write about your experience. How's that creature make you feel? How did that experience make you feel? That vacation, it's like someplace you might never see again. It's like, if I go back to that area, will it be the same 20 years from that point when I go back? Chances are it's not. I used to love going through Gainesville because going up there, you wouldn't be able to see any sign of city. And now it's like, there's a town. Like, there used to be a lot of outcroppings and prairie plants out here. So it's all becoming like, the road trip is changing too. So, I mean, it was when I was younger, I used to looking out. I mean, I still like to look out the window and see how all the ecotones change. So it's like, you know where you're going, but you're looking at the subtle changes through the environment, the ecology changes. That's all about. I love taking photographs out the window to see the trees and yeah, it's wonderful stuff. But it takes all of us to express, concern, and we need more of that. We need more people to raise the effort. So citizen science in action, do aquatics, get, as Miss Frizzle said, take chances, get messy, make mistakes. So yeah, I love citizen science. I love doing aquatics. I love looking through just a little area. I'm just a curious person. I like to, look at walls, or I can pass out the same wall on my everyday walks at school. And I'm like, oh, there's something I didn't notice. And sure enough, it'd be like a really weird bug I hadn't seen. So I'm like, oh, there we go. But yeah, do research projects. That was one I did. And during the height of COVID, actually, we were together doing an entomology research project. It was me, Clint King, and Dr. Ann Mayo. And we were at the Fort Worth Nature Center doing a little bit of snooping around there for insects. And yeah, it's pretty wonderful. Actually, I brought my whole camera set there. And so she gave me my Canon Vixia as a little gift, and I was taking videos for her. One of my favorite moments was when we were looking through old rotten logs, and there was a centipede that came out and like lunged at me. It was kind of cool, but I was like, yeah, it was a pretty big one. So I'm like, I'm not gonna mess with you. You got those petty pals that can do some damage. So look through inner space, not just our macro environment, but look at the micro environment. So these are some of the ones I've taken with my microscope at home. And water samples. Look at how cool the fossils are. I'm a big fossil geek, so I like to look at my collection under different lights. It's always changing your perspective to give it more of a good beat on what you're experiencing. And again, it's layers. Earth has layers. It's amazing how vast our universe is, and then how the Earth is its own little multiple. It's one world, but it's multiple realms. And you get to see the coolest stuff when you're doing macro inverts and aquatics. I love for this stuff. Yeah, you get to see really small things, and you have to get pretty close up sometimes, but the diversity, how small things can be and how big, it's astounding, mind-blowing even. And so this brings up an interesting note before I get here. So water quality. So how, with all this development, that's going to run into some really big problems with our sewage. And so with some of these, they indicate how good your water quality is. There's a lot of inverts like mayflies and little beetles that will die if the water quality is not good. And that can lead to some bigger problems. So birds may not be able to feed, and birds need food, water, shelter. Oh yeah, that's actually the bird feeder or the bird house at my on my back porch. This little one has nested out there probably about 3 years. We like to watch it and carry its sticks back and forth, and we've had a lot of luck with Buick's Wrens in Carolina. Yeah, the funny story, I was actually volunteering with a bunch of kids at Elmer W. Oliver, and they're like, "Oh, there's a yellow crown night heron with a crayfish. Get a picture." I'm like, so I get my camera out, and they're like, "That's pretty cool."
That's a big crayfish.
Okay, funny story. I was down at the Texas coast at Aransas National Wildlife Refuge, and I was down by the estuary, and there was a great blue heron choking out a fish as big as his head. I'm like, how is he unlocking his jaw like that? And better yet, how is he not choking? It's like some of these birds with the live on neck, like, how do they have a gag reflex? Yeah, the questions that keep you up at night, man. And so, birds are like my main passions. So, experiencing wildlife in different times of year will help you understand how they live more. So, yeah, we had the freeze, and I was putting out food for them, and I was my yard was quite popular that year. We had butter butts, or the yellow rump warbler, as it's known. There was one, I felt so bad. He was trying to get some seed out of the frozen ice, and I'm like, he's not getting anything. So I went to my garbage can, which is like a steel one, so the rodents won't get in there. And I pull a handful and put it out there so he can have something to eat at least. And that goes, how can we help our local wildlife? How can we, how can both sides benefit? And it's relaxing. I'll tell you, birding is relaxing. It can be as vigorous as you want it, or as relaxing. So yeah, sometimes I'll just put my tripod out and see what I can get the whole day. The little woodpecker looks so happy with that little seed, or that little peanut. I love our red-bellied woodpeckers. I think this is like one of the ones that I've seen before staying around. I love seeing the kinglets too. We get a lot of really cool diversity. I think like the 2 freezes before, we had red-breasted nuthatches come through. So we had I think I counted 5, but I could have been fudging on the numbers. So, but yeah, that was pretty unusual. The first one I saw was at the Fort Worth Nature Center when I was volunteering, and I got this really awesome shot of his backside, and he flies away before I can get any other shot.
Of course.
But that's also one of the things I like about photography, because if you fail your first time, it's like, best part of valor is to fight another day. So you get to, sometimes you have to go out of your way to find them again, but it's always the luck of the draw. And so keeping places wild. Okay, this needs some work, but I want to see things like this. And you'll be surprised that this spot right here leads to this spot. This is in Austin. It's I can't remember the park, but it's like on the same stretch, and you just look down and you're like, those mountains? It's so beautiful. It's amazing how when you go out and explore a place, you just lose yourself, go wild with it. And take note of all the little details, all the little nooks and crannies, because you never know what you're going to find that's gonna stick with you the rest of your life. And yeah, the prairie, actually, that was funny. This top left one. It was my final semester at TCC, and I had spent a lot of time in the front prairie, but I'm making my rounds about the last week of class, and I'm like, when did that prairie show up? I'm gonna go in. So I went in there after a rain, and all my friends were like, Zach, your cuffs of your pants are soaking wet. What are you doing? I was looking at spiders and stuff in this little prairie here. Yeah, so it was worth it. I got a lot of. I like getting the weird looks. I like the reaction. I don't hide nothing from no one. So that was another. I just love this shot. I had to blow it up again. Okay, guys, this is a big one. Invasive plants. Yes.
So that prairie is behind the south TCC?
Yeah, it's actually on the side of the engineering building. Yeah.
Southeast or south?
South. Yeah, I went to south, southeast. I have some really cool stories about southeast. You want to hear them? Yeah. Oh, I used to get there every morning and would go to the pond and go up the trail. Oh, so many stories. Okay, who knows what this is? Not the goofy, not the goofy guy in the picture, but what the guy's holding.
Is that River Legacy?
No, this was actually at Randall Mill Park.
Okay.
During our big event for UTA. I was actually out there for Master Naturalist, so I was kind of double dipping. But as our friend Sam Keishner says, get rid of that blasted privet. Privet. Yeah, I love pulling out native plants. That's also a big concern because birds can't leave it alone. This stuff is like gumdrops or M&Ms to them. They can't put it down, so they, eat the berries. It spreads like wild, and you get a lot of competition for light. It's all about light in the forest. So it's not just one environment that needs help. It's tons of environments. It's everything. And we're messing up everything with our landscapes and why? All right, Jim. I don't know about these humans, but I think they're quite illogical. A little bit of a Leonard Nimoy impression. And then we have this nasty plant. Yeah, so we're talking about birds a lot. This is actually a last resort, but it's got cyanide in it. It's deadly. It's Nandina, or heavenly bamboo, as some of you may know it. Every time I see it, I just want to. But plants have their function. But people have altered the landscapes and plant DNA. And we've made so many hybrids that are not functional. We made some that are way too functional and become more aggressive. I'm also thinking of a Ian Malcolm line. Just because your scientist said you should or could doesn't mean you should. But yeah, so it poses a threat to animals that eat them, or sometimes animals just avoid them. We have some that are just functionally not doing. If there's nothing eating your yard, any part of the ecosystem. Saw that in a few posts. I think some of you posted, or we always seem to repost everything we put out. So native plants, we need them. You can do it too. Put them in your yard. This is my baby. This is this is my first plot at the new house. This is when I first got it stable. I moved in 2017 or 2018, and yeah, it just took over like wildfire. I started with a little bit of kind of like shallow brick, but then I built it up so I can use the edges as planters for other things. And every year I have to do another bio survey in my own yard because I'm like, okay, what's come up? What free plants have I got? What needs to be pulled out? What needs to be replanted? What have I lost during a freeze? So yeah, I've had a good run with Turk's Cap, Greg's Mistflower, and it's amazing. I mean, I iron out my yard every chance I get and go out, and people, my neighbors must think I'm crazy with my beet sheet and everything, going out there looking for spiders in my bushes. And no, it's fun though. It's fun to, if you can't find the time to go outside, or not outside, but outside your yard, explore it. It's yours. It's your little slice, and I love it. And then beach cleanup or any kind of trash cleanup. This is down at Padre Island, and they had free bags. It's like come in, clean up trash for a while. And I was like, give me one of those. And so I spent a lot of time cleaning up and got some really cool stuff washed up on the beach. Some of it was kind of concerning because I had a Portuguese man of war come up, and it's like, that's the first time I saw one. I was like, I know what you are. I'm just gonna steer clear. But I mean, it's so cool. It almost is like blown glass, and it's just amazing. I've never seen one of these. This is the first time I've seen them. So whenever you're, doing your volunteerism, whoop, look around you. You know, you're gonna find some really cool stuff. I mean, pulling up plants, you might see a little snake or a spider, and it's like, oh, time to geek out. And so, community engagement. It's all about community. And whenever everything else fails, hopefully someone will listen. And I'm reminded of the Lorax. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's gonna get better. It's not. Always use that. I love that quote. So, yeah, so this is community engagement through citizen science outings, bird counts. This is my first volunteer. Brent, you remember this? I'm sure a bunch of you know, we were making seed balls. That was my first volunteer. Even I signed up for at the Fort Worth Zoo. I loved it, and the kids loved it too. But I know I really loved it. But mothing nights, we get to, you know, get out in the woods for a while, just put out moth lights. It's like a water cooler. It's kind of fun. And then of course you kind of get a little silly and do fun events at the Fort Worth Nature Center. This is during our Boo at the Stew, or no, but not good. This is the professor for it that we did our events with, but that was for her biology class. But that was on the same time we had that event. And then, yeah, so Riley, raise your hand. So I started my own club for the at TCC South called the South Nature and Outdoors Club. And Riley's in there somewhere. I was the club president, and yeah, it was really, really fun. We had a lot of dedicated Riley, for one, was very dedicated, but we got shut down during COVID, so it was like whoa. But yeah, community engagement is everything. If you don't have community, you don't have your support. You don't have you. And I love working with kids, because when I was growing up, you know, I was the awkward kid. I wanted to learn everything, and I see kids now that are just like me. I'm like, I want to shape those into like what I, and connect them with what I liked, and hopefully they can hold on to it, because, you know, kids are addicted to iPads, and I'm like, when I was a kid, I didn't have an iPad. I barely had internet. I mean, I had the AOL dial-up. I just think I should be a stand-up comedian. But yeah, I mean, we didn't have that. I mean, my aunt was the one who paid for it, but I mean, I did play the DOS knowledge adventure games, and those were like wildlife based, and so I was always learning, and and all my classmates were like, who is this guy? But I've always been a nerd, and I'll die a nerd. So it is your mission to take notes of what you see in your area, set aside land, set aside native plant habitats, join the battle against invasive species, take lots of photos of wildlife and submit them to citizen science. Clean up around your yards and your neighborhoods, because people are just, they just leave trash over. It's ridiculous. And never stop learning and exploring. Let your nature curiosity lead you, and do your part to protect local wildlife, which will spread to protecting entire environments. And just get out there and go wild. Captain's orders. On Facebook, Instagram. I am also on iNaturalist as Galactic Bugman. Instagram, Galactic Naturalist. And Facebook is just Zach Chapman. And my hailing frequencies are always open at Zachary Chapman, or Zachary.Chapman 1701 at gmail.com. After the program, I brought some of my stuff I will gladly tell you about. It's a little slice of what I've been doing through my last 10 years of my life. I have some stuff from college, photographs I've done on the side, and all my cameras. So feel free to stop by and check it out.
And how many photographs do you have in wild DFW?
So I was asked, how many photographs do I have in Wild DFW? About 4 to 5, but I'm also mentioned in 3 sections, citizen science. What is this? I can't remember which is the second one, but then I'm also in the River Legacy chapter.
So the camera equipment isn't part of the raffle?
No, it's not!
Repeat the question.
I think we know the answer to that.
Don't get me laughing. You'll never get out of here. I was asked, is the camera equipment for the, it's not a raffle? No, it's not. Try again. Yes, questions, comments, concerns.
Somebody said, I encourage you to check out the exhibit at the Carter Museum. Elliot something.
Lots of comments.
What's the exhibit at the Carter Museum?
I can't remember the artist's name, but he is he a Texas artist? There's some movies I've seen.
Elliot Porter. Elliot Porter.
Repeat that, Elliot Porter.
For those of you who didn't hear, it's the what was it?
Elliot Porter.
Elliot Porter is the presenter at the Amon Carter exhibition.
Oh,
And
good.
he documents native plants in his art, so it's very similar to what's happening.
So,
A lot of compliments on chat.
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
If you're on Facebook and you want something that will make you smile every time, you friend Zach,
Yeah.
because the dragonflies, the ducks, you name it, I don't know how you see what you see.
I just walk around and take notes. Walk around, take notes, tell strangers.
All right, I'm missing part of that. Thank you, Zach. You're awesome. Awesome. Do we have any other announcements for the audience? Carol Marcotte.
Yes, membership, if you have any, you're in the 2023 class and you don't have your pins or your certificates, I have them, you can email me at membership@ctmn.org and I can arrange to meet you somewhere or you can come out. I also have research pins, anybody that didn't make it to the award ceremony. Or if you know somebody, you work with somebody, they have their stuff over here, that all needs to be picked up. The other thing, my other announcement is Earth Day at Randall Mill Park.
Earth Day at Randall Mill Park
Saturday, this weekend.
this Saturday,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
We have lots of volunteer activities.
Plenty of that volunteer things for you to do. There's Nature Con at the Fort Worth Nature Center from about 9 to 3 this Saturday. The Fort Worth Museum of Science and History has an event on Sunday from 12 to 3. And I'll repeat Carol's other announcement in a second.
Don't forget, last weekend in April, City Nature Challenge, get on to it.
yeah.
And if you don't know what City Nature Challenge is, now you know how to contact Zach and ask him. Carol is our membership director this year, and she would love for people to pick up their pins and certificates. If you're class of 2023 and you have not picked up the pins and or certificates you earned, let's help Carol out so she doesn't have to carry this stuff around quite as much. If you recertified last year and earned your 40 hours of volunteering and 8 hours or more of AT, please pick up your new pin. It's the Diamondback Rattlesnake. You want to pick it up? No, excuse me, that's next year's. It's the map of Texas. You want to pick that up so then you can put the rattlesnake on top of it next year.
Want next month's program?
Next month's program.
Kimberly? Kimberly Peterson with Texas Forest Service is gonna talk to us about oak wilt. And even though we don't like it, oak wilt is around us up here.
We like our oak trees better than we like our oak wilt, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, any other announcements? All right, we're gonna close the meeting officially, and I'm gonna read numbers for those people who are here that would like to, something from the table to the far left. Zach, you ready to go get to your table so you can protect everything? You can negotiate with Zach on buying his photography or something, but not his cameras.
We can do that.
All right.